Welcome to the Unraveling Scriptures channel. Surely you must have heard about the renowned biblical giants. The most famous among them, undoubtedly, is Goliath, the giant from Gath. The story of David and Goliath is intriguing and captivating. However, what if I told you that Goliath has an even more remote ancestral predecessor, possibly from the time of Abraham, or even earlier? This giant, known as the greatest of the Anakim, is called Arba, also known as Arba. Today, I would like to invite you to explore the story of Arba in another video of our series that deals with the ancient giants of the scriptures. Please watch the video until the end and, if you find it relevant, leave your like and share it with friends and family. The Enigma of Arba, the ancestral giant of Goliath. Nephilim, derived from the Hebrew naphal, meaning he fell, is a term mentioned in three passages of the Bible: Genesis 6 verse 4, Numbers 13:33, and Wisdom 14:06. In the Septuagint, the term was translated as born of the earth, and in later translations, it was interpreted as giants. Martin Luther translated Nephilim as tyrants. According to the Book of Enoch, angels called watchers had relations with women and bore giants called Nephilim, described as brave and cruel warriors who rebelled against humans. Father Enibol Pereira Rees explains that the expression, B'nai Elohim, in Genesis chapter 6 refers to angels, not to the offspring of Seth, which is also mentioned in the book of Job. Another advocate of this theory is the former pastor Caio Favio in his book Nephilim. References to giants in the books of Eric von Daniken and in the writings of Zechariah Sitchin about the Anunnaki from Sumerian tablets also relate to the Nephilim. The giants mentioned in the Old Testament disappeared during the reign of King David, possibly exterminated. Goliath, a distant descendant of the Nephilim, was killed by David but was considerably smaller than the first ones, who may have been responsible for the destruction of the ancient world, as mentioned in 2 Peter 2 verse 4 and Jude 6. Now, the story of this biblical giant is known to few, mainly because he is mentioned only once in the Holy Scriptures. However, he is no ordinary giant, he is the greatest of the Anakim, a race of giants. The Anakim, whose name literally means, those who fell from the sky, were rivals and enemies of the people of Israel during their first entry into the Promised Land, challenging Joshua, Caleb, and other descendants of Israel. In addition to the Anakim, there were several other tribes of giants in the region of Canaan and throughout the Middle East in antiquity. The ancient city of Hebron, located in the territory of Israel, has a curious history. Before being called Hebron by the Israelites, its name was Arba. Kiryat means city or province, and Arba means four or fourth. The reason for this name is revealed in the book of Joshua, chapter 14, verses 14 and 15, where it refers to the ancient giant considered the greatest of the Anakim. The city of Arba is best known for being the place where Abraham bought a field and a cave to bury his wife, Sarah, as described in the book of Genesis, Genesis 23 verses 2 to 20. This cave became known as the Cave of Machpelah and is a sacred site for Jews to this day. After Sarah's death, Abraham, who was a stranger in the land of Canaan, asked the local inhabitants for the opportunity to acquire a burial place. The inhabitants, in a gesture of generosity and respect, offered him the choice of any land to bury his wife. Abraham then chose the Cave of Machpelah, in Arba, and negotiated with the Hittite inhabitants to acquire the land. Therefore, the city of Arba has significant importance both in biblical history and in Jewish tradition, due to its connection with the patriarch Abraham and the burial place of Sarah. Therefore, to this day, Hebron belongs to the descendants of Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, because he was obedient and persevering in following the God of Israel. Before that, the city was known as Arba, in honor of Arba, the greatest of the Anakim giants. Thus, the land experienced a time of rest from war. Speaking about the meaning of Arba, the name of the ancient giant who dwelled in the great city now known by the Israelites as Hebron, its etymology dates back to the city of Arba. This name is mentioned in the Hebrew Aramaic Bible as the ancient name of the city of Hebron, which, as we mentioned, is also the place where Sarah, Abraham's wife, passed away, as described in Genesis, chapter 23, verse 2. Furthermore, Kiriath Arba is mentioned in the book of Nehemiah as one of the places where some people of Judah lived. Kiriath derives from ancient Hebrew Phoenician and literally means city, while Arba can mean the number 4 or simply fourth. It is interesting to note that Arba always has the meaning of 4 or fourth in some Semitic languages. There are several explanations for the name Arba, not necessarily mutually exclusive. According to some biblical commentators, Kiriath Arba, or the city of Arba, means the city of Kiriath and Arba, the giant, where Arba may represent the fourth or the number 4. Some rabbis and commentators suggest that Arba was called the fourth because of 3 other giants who were considered leaders and inhabited the region along with him. Although Arba was the largest among them, the other 3 giants were also prominent and were known as Sesai, Iman, and Talmai. Together with Arba, there were the 4 leading giants of that city. Arba was so famous and recognized that many believe he himself founded the current city of Hebron. It is quite likely that the city was established by him, and everyone there was subordinate to Arba and the other giants who inhabited the region. Some even suggest that there were no people of normal stature in that region, only a community of giants. When Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt towards Canaan, they faced many battles and confrontations, including battles with the giants themselves. It is interesting to note that the Israelites had great fear of the ancient Anakim, to the point of describing them as monstrous beings of immense stature, comparing them to grasshoppers. This description is recorded in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verses 32 and 33. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." A notable curiosity in this passage from the book of Numbers is that the verse mentioning the giants, originally in Hebrew, uses the term Nephilim. The Israelites showed great fear of the Anakim, however, this did not prevent them from conquering the land that belonged to them. We cannot precisely determine when Arba, the great Anakim giant, lived in that region of Israel, corresponding currently to Hebron, but it is reasonable to infer, from biblical texts, that it was before or during the life of Abraham. This is supported by the fact that when Sarah passed away, the city was already known as Kiriath Arba. Probably, Arba lived around 4,000 years ago, perhaps a little more. As for the stature of the giant Arba, he is described as the tallest among all the Anakim. Comparing with other races of giants, such as the Rephaim, the tallest mentioned in the Bible is undoubtedly Og, the king of Bashan, who was both giant and king. For those interested in exploring more about this topic, there is even a video available about it and the intriguing book of Og, which addresses this other giant. We know that the giant Og of Bashan was over 14 feet tall, and as the giant Arba is considered the largest of his race, we do not have an exact stature for him. We just know that he was a giant and was most likely around 14 feet tall or even taller. His stature could be comparable to that of Og, who was 9 cubits high, equivalent to 15.65 feet, and 6 feet wide. Considering that Og was 15.65 feet tall, we can infer that Arba, the largest of the Anakim giants, was approximately 15 feet tall, or perhaps the same stature as Og. Although we don't know for sure, it's safe to say he was over 14 feet tall. Some say that Arba was the father of Sesai, Iman, and Talmai, and also of Anak. However, we do not find biblical verses confirming that Arba was the father of Anak, Sesai, Iman, and Talmai. From what we understand from the biblical verses, Arba was an Anakim, a giant of the Anakim race. Some interpret Anak as an individual giant, but in fact, Anak is the name of the tribe of giants, not of a single giant. Despite this, Some people consider Anak as an individual giant who lived at that time, known only by the name Anak. It is important to remember that Anak is the term referring to all giants of the Anakim race collectively. Thank you to all who have watched up to this point. Leave a comment if you already knew the story of Arba, the greatest of the giants. May God bless, and see you soon.